Mr. Dave DeGennaro, business manager, is here to talk about the revolving funds. Judy. Judy.
Go home, Judy. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at my first school committee meeting. I'm honored to be here.
So do we blame you for the snow, or?
No, I didn't make the first one either because of the snow, right? So in your packet, there is a presentation on revolving funds. And revolving funds are actually part of our budgeting process. We consider what revolving funds we have and what they're used for, and we try to forecast the expenses and the revenues that come in from revolving funds, and that really helps the town with their budgeting, funding and revenues also, because it's a little bit less pressure on the town to fund everything we need, because we have a town appropriation, but then we also have these revolving funds and our grants that are really part of our expenditures also, the whole piece working together. So usually revenue received by a municipality or a department is deposited into the general fund and can't be used for any purpose without further appropriation, but there's mass general laws that have an exception to that rule, which are called revolving funds. So that's what we have. So revolving funds are established for a particular dedicated service. That we get in specific revenues for that service. We charge a fee, or even for a donation. We sometimes get donations, like for athletic revolving funds, as an example. We pay the expenses out of that revolving fund that are specific to that fund and specifically established for that service. And the balance can be rolled over at the end of the school year without further appropriation, but we cannot have a negative balance in those funds. So if for some reason there's a negative balance, we would have to make that up with our school appropriation. So we watch that closely to make sure at the end of the year we have some type of a balance that would roll forward. It can be any amount, it can be a small amount, but as long as it's not a negative amount, we're good, we're okay. So we keep all the revolving funds separate for their own purpose. One fund is our integrated preschool revolving fund. It's a program for 3 to 5-year-old children. The revenue sources from that are from student tuition fees, and we use that revolving fund for salary for preschool staff and some classroom supplies. Another revolving fund, as you all know, is our athletic revolving fund, the program for junior and senior varsity sports. The sources of revenue from that fund are participant fees, booster donations, and youth groups. So we use the expenses from that revolving fund for ice rentals, salary for officials, athletic trainer, uniforms, police details. Sometimes coaches are paid out of that and so forth, but that's not our full athletic fund. We also fund part of that through our appropriation too. So that's just a portion of what our athletics costs us.
Mr. DeGennaro, can I ask you a quick question? You have on both the preschool and the athletic fund and the others, there's on the final column is the FY17 projected revenues / expenses, and there's a single number there. So is that?
So we forecast what the revenues are going to be in, so we can't have more expenses than there are revenues. So whatever the revenues come in, we kind of keep the expenses to that amount of money, as close as we can. So that's why there's just one number there, because we can't go over that number, because then that would put us into a negative balance.
So then year to year, we tend to keep the same sort of opening balance and closing balance. What comes in is what goes out, or do we?
Usually, yes, we try to do that, but I know there is balances that do roll over if we anticipate other expenses that we may need, say for athletics, uniforms, or something that we don't budget for. We may say, well, let's hold some of that revolving fund back so that next year we could use some of that to purchase uniforms.
Okay.
So we kind of look ahead too to see what our needs are for the next year.
Thank you.
Our next revolving fund, our full-day kindergarten fund. We know that that's a program to allow kindergarten-aged children to benefit from a full day of instruction. And the revenue source from that fund are student tuition fees. So every student that we charge a tuition goes into that fund, and we are able to pay a portion of kindergarten staff from that, or classroom supplies. And that's our projected revenue again. We also offer a Jasper after-school program fund, which is an elementary enrichment after-school program, and that fees are charged for that also. And we use the salary for the person that teaches those classes for cooking and karate. I guess they offer certain classes at different times of the year. It's a small program, I believe.
And if I may add, it's the Jasper Fund, but we also use that for Masper,
Okay.
which is the middle school one.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
But it's all one fund.
All one fund. So we should relabel that Masper Jasper, right? Another revolving fund is use of school property fund, and that's funded from the South Shore Education Collaborative that Dr. Terrell talked about tonight, and then also youth sports groups that use the facilities pay a fee to use the buildings. From that fund, we do some building maintenance and salaries for custodial coverage. So anything to do with building maintenance, we can use that fund for. Then we also offer a Jacobs School Math League Fund. That's a before-school math enrichment program, and we charge fees again for that program. That's our revenue source, and we expense supplies, materials, and say workbooks from that fund. Drama Revolving Fund is another fund that's a program to support theater productions, and we charge a fee for that. We also receive donations, and we do some fundraising. And when we put on a play, I guess, for the public, we charge an entrance fee for that. So that's where the revenue sources come from. And the expenses out of that fund, we pay for musicians, keyboard players, percussionists, and rights to musical scripts usually. Another fund we have, we offer a Health Family Network Fund. It's a program to support family well-being through parent education and community support. So we offer parent-child play groups, parent education workshops, home visits, special family events, and that's the revenue sources from that are through donations and participant fees. Again, that the expenditures are specifically for that Health Family Network Fund. School Lunch Program Fund is also a revolving fund. So that's our breakfast and lunch program that we offer students district-wide, and the revenue sources are sales of school lunches and breakfasts that the students pay for. And from that, we pay out salaries for the staff, the food, and the supplies for that. We also have a lost book revolving fund. So anytime there's a damaged book or a lost book, we charge the students to replace that, and that's where the revenue sources come from. And we purchase it, we use that fund to purchase the replacement textbook. Kids Care and Adult Ed is another revolving fund. It's a before and after school child program, and it's an adult education evening program, like a continuing ed program. And we charge fees for that. That's where the revenue source is from. And we use the revenues to pay for salaries for the director and the staff, and for supplies and materials. And I think that's about it. Any questions on that or comments?
I would like to thank you for this report and apologize for not formally introducing you at your first school committee.
Oh, that's all right.
Well, you've been to so many meetings
I was
already.
formally
This is true.
introduced at the advisory
You've
committee
been to the
meeting, so that's
advisory committee
okay.
meeting when the school committee has met and all.
Yes.
Came in on Good Friday when we had a phone call.
Yes, so I
No,
was
that's
remiss not doing it formally.
no
so I
problem. Don't worry
apologize,
about
but I
it.
appreciate your report.
Pleasure being here.
Yes, thank you. Does anyone have
Any
any
questions at all?
questions for Mr. DeGennaro?
No?
Nice job, Dave.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.